Hi everybody, I'm Andrew Roberts from the Great Property Meet, and I am with the super scintillating David Clouter today again for part 4 of our series of the A to Z of property strategies.
It's going to be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. So last time we were on bees. Did we finish the bees?
We did not. There's a lot of strategies because if you think about it, it's only 26 letters of the alphabet, so there's quite a few for each one.
Okay, so give me another bee. And, where do we start?
Bridging and short-term finance is the next one. Now, in every property entrepreneur's journey, there are times when there are more deals than money. And
yeah, we've all experienced that.
Sometimes the vendor is in a particular hurry to sell, and you haven't quite got the cash flow to buy it at that time. But if you can get the money in a few days' time, you can get it for a much lower price than you might otherwise if you waited, or you might even lose the deal.
Yeah.
So how do we address that?
Well, I've used bridging. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. And it's quick. More than anything, it's quick. And sometimes you can get 100% finance to purchase it.
Absolutely so. And again, there are two ways to use bridging. Again, as the bridger or as the bridgee. Most people will use this as the bridgee, where you're borrowing money.
Yeah.
You've got to have a deal.
Well, I know bridgers as well. And, phenomenal.
Yes,
phenomenal.
yes. And so we're talking about short-term finance. We're talking about money that's much easier to come. It almost certainly, it could well be a property also that is the way the property is distressed rather than it's needed in a hurry. So to give you an example, in the residential field, it might be a property with no kitchen or no bathroom.
Okay.
So where a mortgage company won't, and in fact there are products called bridge to let as well, where you can bridge it in the first instance where you've bought a pile of rubble effectively, and then once it's finished, they'll convert it to a normal. So you only have to go through the process once. They'll then convert.
So
it
only
to
one
loan.
Valuation,
which is pretty
one
cool.
set of costs, one lending fit.
Yes.
That's actually quite a good product.
I think you'd find that the value.
I've
would
never
come back when
actually
it's finished.
used it,
Oh,
but I have had quotes for it.
So just to streamline things a bit, if you have a big pipeline of deals and you want to keep things kind of moving fast, but.
So is this a good strategy, would you say?
It's a good strategy if you've got a good deal. If you've got a marginal deal, it's not a good strategy. And it's very important to have your exit strategy, because if you're bridging for 6 months or for 9 months or whatever, there are going to be high penalties if you overrun. So you want to be aware of that. You've got to have your plan Bs for if it all goes wrong. Yeah.
I mean, a little tip I would give on this point is, if you think that you can do the works in 9 months and you only ask for 9 months, and your builder accidentally trips over or puts a nail through his foot or hits himself on the head with a hammer and doesn't turn up to site and runs slightly behind project, the penalties on interest can be huge. But worse still, the terms of the contract often say the lender, the bridger, can take control of that property off you and not pay you a penny. So thank you very much, you've just gifted them a property because you've breached your part of the contract. So always make sure, if you think you need 9 months, ask for 18 months. They only charge you the interest on the period of time, generally speaking, that you borrow it for.
Yes, that's absolutely true, and that's very good advice. And also, look at the charges, because by the time you've used the bridger's solicitor, the bridger's valuer, and by the time you've had the joining up charge and the leaving charge and this charge and that charge, you might end up, if you think you're going to be paying 1% a month, with the charges, you might end up paying 2% a month.
Yeah.
So
it's worth looking at that. Now, I've done a video before with a gentleman called Kevin Wright, who is a fantastic chap at arranging bridging finance, and he's also one of the judges on the Property Investor Awards panel. So I'm going to put a video link to that previous video up here. I think I've actually done 2, so I'm going to put 2 links up here with Kevin Wright so that you can actually jump on. And I also know he does a webinar on the 2nd Tuesday of every month. So I'll put a link to the webinar that Kevin does down here for you to jump on and benefit from.
And not many people know this, but I'm a rock DJ and I run a rock show every week. And Kevin has been one of my guests, and he came in and he revealed his dark past, where when he was a youngster, he was in a band and he was playing us all his songs.
So fantastic. Nice? I mean, the other thing I would say, and just very quickly add in here, is people go, oh, bridging finance expensive. I'd rather JV. If you JV with somebody, you're giving away potentially 50% of the profit for life of that deal. Bridging if it costs 1% per month for the period of time that you have it, and you have it for 12 months, that's 12%. On my maths, 50% is more than 12%. If you manage to get off it in 6 months, that's only 6% that you've paid for the bridge. So think very carefully, is a joint venture better than a bridge? Look at the total cost of finance, because it's not just the cost of the income that you might be getting on this, i.e. the uplift in value, the cost of the rent, taxation, all sorts become a little bit more complex. Not saying don't do joint ventures, I'm saying consider bridging.
And we will come on to joint ventures when we get to J, but another point to just interject here at this point is that when we're doing a joint venture, also we have to comply with the law. There's a thing called PS 13.3 that you can look up, which
13.3 and 13.4, yeah.
And so that's more difficult as well. So not only have you given away half the value of your project, but you might find you might fall foul of the law as well.
And you have a significant amount more compliance that you need to do. And if your project runs over more than 12 months, the compliance has to be done twice on the project because it has to be done every 12 months.
That's right.
So let's not be depressing. Let's talk about something more positive. Do you have a positive B?
Yes. Well, let's talk about falling out of bed.
That's not positive, David.
And falling out of bed is the expression that that those of us who are in the know use when we go into an estate agent, and it's always good to sort of regularly be in contact with our estate agents, and we go in there and we say, have you got anything this month that's fallen out of bed? And what that means is there a property that's involved in a broken chain?
Okay. Well, it's not a positive strategy for the person who's got the broken chain.
No. Oh, no.
But it's a positive strategy if you were an investor.
That's right. Yes.
Explain why.
It's positive for us. Now, sometimes when there's a sort of, I don't know, a £20,000 flat at the bottom of the chain and a £1 million house at the top.
Okay.
It'll get and the buyer for that pulls out. Sometimes the guy at the top will actually go down and buy the little thing at the bottom and just to break
keep the chain going,
because the whole thing falls apart. None of the estate agents get their money. Funny enough, the legal people would all get paid for the work they've done, but you know.
Hang on. It's not fair.
Anyway, well, that's life.
Oh well. That's solicitors.
They work such long hours, they deserve it. So it can be the case that if there's a house somewhere in the middle where everything's falling apart, that if you can fix that, and what you'd normally do is you'd be offering a lower price for that house in the middle of the chain just to get things moving again, that it may be that the vendor of that house who is looking to move to their dream house, which is one level up, will accept that. And everybody in the chain is going to be quite excited. Other people in the chain might make a contribution.
Okay.
So
it's a negotiation strategy.
I think that's your forte.
Well, I've actually done a video and several talks on the Negotiation 101 and the insiders' tips and tricks to negotiation. So I might put a couple of links up here to some of the videos for you to watch.
I think you definitely should.
And if you're enjoying this, don't forget to put a comment below and tell us what you'd like to hear. And if we've missed an A or a B off, please do tell us strategies that are A or B that you've remembered that we've forgotten.
And we'll fill those in we'll actually do them next time.
Yeah, we'll do a whole video on those, and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you want to hear when the next video comes out. So David, do we have any more Bs?
We do, and that is bulk buying. Now, in the supermarket, it doesn't always work that when you buy 20 loo rolls, it's not always cheaper per loo roll than if you buy 5. You have to look at the little small print on the labels, and sometimes they get it wrong. Yeah. In property as well. So this is largely a strategy that we can do. We can do this with, it works, it relates to buying portfolios where the price of the portfolio is going to be less than the individual price of the properties, because people don't tend to buy houses in 12s or 20s or whatever. Yeah. It could also apply to a developer where you might want to buy 3 or 4, and you might offer them a little bit less because you're easing their burden. In the case of a lot of portfolios, there are some. We've had recent tax changes, and I think we've talked about that. And there was an event, the Great Property Meet recently, where we went into that in great detail with Mark Smith.
And we've actually got some videos. I'll put those videos of Mark Smith up in these 2 corners for you to have a watch at separately after this one, obviously.
That's absolutely fabulous. And this has led to some property investors giving up, effectively, and they just want to quit at all costs. In some cases, these investors will have, by refinancing, taken more out of the property than it's worth.
So they're effectively in negative equity because of the tax bill and because of the mortgage debt.
That's
so
right.
they have to put their hand in their pocket today to pay back the taxman and the mortgage company.
Yes.
So what they get on the sale.
There can be some very, very squeezed people indeed when it comes to, and not all of them realise this.
No.
And another trap that people fall into in this kind of thing is that when you're refinancing, don't refinance more than the original purchase price plus the cost of works. Otherwise, again, you're going to face really bankruptcy when it comes to get rid of the thing, because the tax implications of that are just don't bear thinking about.
There is actually a strategy and a technique, and that refers back to the previous videos I mentioned that Mark Smith very kindly created with us, and that will help you wash out that negative equity. But that's to watch in those other videos.
Yeah.
So, bulk buying. Is it a high-risk strategy, high reward? What would you say?
It's high risk and it's high reward, but
okay, so risk and reward are both.
So it's one where they kind of match up. But in particular, you might find, for example, a developer who is coming to the end of his or her tax year, or just about to finish a development. So their heart is in San Francisco, where they left it, and they're working on the next deal. But they've got this 3 properties left in London that they need to shift. They really need to shift it, and it's just a pain. So you can get the show home and a couple of others, and you can make them an offer. Or they might just be starting the development, and that's when we need a bit of injection of cash to get the ball rolling. And nobody wants to be first. And you know, when they started trolleys for supermarkets, they were paying actors to push them around in the early days, so everybody would get on the bank run. So if you buy the first 3 in the development, 3 of them have suddenly got lights in the windows and curtains and people moving in and out of there. So that can help as well.
Well, I'm going to quickly add in a strategy for you here that we've gone past. We're doing these in alphabetical order, and we're on BU for bulk buying. Bankruptcy. Now, this is 2 strategies here I'll share with you that are bankruptcy. Number 1 strategy is bankruptcy of the builder. Now, you could have a builder who is working with you, or it could be a builder that you've worked with in the past, and he's going bankrupt, and he needs to offload some inventory fast for cash flow. So there's one strategy. The other strategy, and this is something I do, there's a publication called the London Gazette. You can actually find it online now, so you don't have to read the physical paper, the London Gazette. And that lists all people who are being made bankrupt, insolvent, or companies going into administration. And you can actually go through that publication and pick up bankrupts who've got assets and approach the bankrupt's trustee or the administration firm who are handling it, or the insolvency practitioner, and say to them, hey, I believe you've got to sell this. They have to be seen to market this actively to the open market, but it's a great strategy where you can pick things up at less than, a bit like we talked about in the auctions one, where you can pick it up because it's being marketed in the wrong place and with speed and urgency, but you can quickly take that. So there's another strategy for you.
Those are fantastic. If you're ever working with, whilst we're still on the subject of bankruptcy, actually 2 things.
So I'm digressed you off down a rabbit hole again.
To give you an example, in the city, I think it is, of Ipswich, there's a thing on the waterfront, lovely waterfront, and there was this thing that was just basically some concrete uprights and some concrete floors, and that's all. No more of it was done. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, that the original developer had spent about £16 million to get to that point. And
Very expensive concrete pillars.
And then, I don't know the precise details, the minutiae of this, but I know that a couple of years ago somebody picked it up, rumoured to be in the value of about $1 million. They called it the wine rack because it just looked exactly like that, like a wine rack.
Well,
and then the first
was
thing
this chap trying to recreate Greece?
Apparently, but it didn't have quite the sort of twilly.
He didn't have the Doric pillars. No.
So, but that gives you the idea of the level of discounting. I think it was, I could be wrong, but I think it was something of the region of 16 million spent on it, and it was bought for 1 or 2 million. So kind of there's value, but it sat there for about a decade.
And the best one I've ever come across, and I wish I'd done this deal myself, to be perfectly frank. It was a company who'd borrowed the money from a lender, and unfortunately they'd lied to the lender. So lesson here, do not lie to lenders. They'd lied to the lender. As a result, the lender reported them to Companies House because it was a limited company. They brought in administrators and repossessed them. The portfolio value was £22 million. It was sold, how much for?
10?
£1. Sorry.
I did say 10.
Dramatic impact there. £1, £22 million down to £1 million. How? Simplistically speaking, the letting agent was desperate not to lose 200 properties off his books. Well, it was 226 to be precise. And he was dead keen to keep these as a client. So he approached the lender and said, Mr. Lender, could I take over the mortgage debt on this portfolio? And they said, well, we're either selling these at a discount, because it was about £18 million worth of asset value, or you can take it on, because a fire sale in one specific town of a large number of properties very fast would drop prices, because who in the right mind is going to pay market price? And it would pull all the houses, residential, private sector, public sector, down. So the lenders took the haircut on that deal and basically said, you take over and sign this agreement to say you will continue to pay the mortgage debt, because the portfolio was inherently hugely profitable, as you could imagine. And he acquired a whole portfolio that was a client and became his own for £1, plus the commitment to pay the mortgage debt.
That is absolutely staggering.
So that's bankruptcy. It's great, isn't it?
When you're, we'll come back to this later, but if you're working with a distressed vendor and you're buying a property from them, you want to make sure that the receiver isn't going to come along 6 months later or a year later and say this property was disposed of at less than market value, and he can unpick the transaction. He's quite lawfully allowed to do that. The way around that is to get your vendor to sign a declaration of solvency which says, I sold you this property, I didn't need this money to prop me up, I'm not about to go bankrupt, and as long as they've done that in good faith and you bought it in good faith, that's something that you need to show.
Totally.
Just a little aside.
You've got to demonstrate. Do we have any more Bs? Because I took us back to BA.
Yes.
Bit like the A-team, BA Baracus. Sorry, we're digressing again. Come out the rabbit hole.
Mr. T.
Come back.
Buy and hold for the long term.
And that's what we all tend to do, isn't it?
It's a vanilla sort of strategy, isn't it?
I like that.
There's nothing exciting, nothing sexy about it, but it's a great way. Slow and steady wins the race. It's a great way over time to build up some passive
capital
income.
Growth, therefore you get equity in the property, you get long-term income from it, and from the point of view of your debt generally stays pegged at a flat rate like that, but your rents go up. And over time, inflation basically makes that debt that you've got and the interest payments that you're paying go like that in real terms. So your margin widens, if you can forgive my alligator hands.
They're very good. They're very good. It's a pity we haven't got a torch and we could get things on the screen.
Some shadows behind us. That would be good, wouldn't it? That would be good.
It would. But that's a great idea, as you say. And even if you're on an interest-only mortgage, inflation will reduce the value, the purchasing power of that money that you've borrowed. So indeed, the sort of worth of it.
So we won't go into much detail on that, because that's pretty plain vanilla. So do we have any more Bs?
In similar vein, buy-to-let is a thing. When I started in property, there was no such thing as Buytolet, so I had to make my own sort of way in the marketplace. Since then, products arose, and there's a whole industry really servicing the sort of Buytolet sector. There's not much that one can say really, except keep on doing it and do more of it.
Okay, no, brilliant.
So very similar to the last one.
Last one. So do we have any more? Surely there can't be any more Bs, because we're a BU, and there isn't a BZ or anything, is there?
Not as far as I know. But you never know. Buying from builders, their existing stock, that is.
Oh, yeah, this is clever.
That's quite a clever thing, and that can be leveraged very much to the advantage of the person who's got a bit of cash, because builders are quite realistic people, and for a number of reasons they might want to dispose of property.
Yeah,
it might be property that's unfinished, for example, which is okay, but it's the sort of stuff.
Might be they're in breach of their banking covenants or something.
Possibly, but just when the builder has a shortfall, when they have an urgent need for cash, it's a thing of cash is king. If you can step in and help them, then you can get things at less than retail, if you like.
Totally.
And that can work for us very well.
There's quite a number of ways of getting off builders, or why builders might sell. And I think that might be a video. Reasons to discuss with builders, or building up a network of builders, why they might sell their inventory to you. So we'll cover that in a separate video. And I think for today, that's enough.
I agree.
Next time we get together, we'll start on the Cs. If you've liked this, please hit the like button down here. Please drop us a comment and tell us if you're liking the series and what you would like us to add in or do differently. And hit the bell icon if you'd like to hear about when the next video launches live.
And if we've missed any A's or B's and you've told us about them, we'll cover them as well.
Absolutely. We'll do a quick wrap-up of those.
That's going to get difficult by the time we reach Z, and if we've missed a few.
We better quickly tag them in. So from me, Andrew Roberts from the Great Property Meet, and the super fantastic, fragilistic, expialidocious David Clouter.
Thank you.